you know the show Last Dance, documentary on the Chicago Bulls, the dynasty on ESPN, last few episodes just aired over the weekend. And in those episodes, and I've been very critical of this documentary, but in those episodes, there's a part where it's the night before Game 5 where the Bulls are playing the Utah Jazz up there in Utah, and the Bulls organization claiming that 5 people delivered one pizza for Michael Jordan. Now, I've said time and time again that I've heard from pretty good sources around the Bulls that night Jordan flew out to see one of his mistresses. He was not on food poisoning. He was actually on a hangover and didn't get any sleep from partying, and he wasn't feeling good. Now, if you don't believe me, that's fine. But we are now learning from the actual pizza delivery man himself. That's right. His name is Craig Fite. I don't know maybe he applied for the UCLA job. I don't know. I don't know what he's been doing these days. But Greg Fite apparently was the man who delivered the pizza to the Michael Jordan hotel room back in 1997, and he went on a Salt Lake City radio show, and he said he took great care to make sure that Michael Jordan's pizza was safe because he made it himself. Have a listen to this.
Yes, I'll make the pizza because I don't want any of you doing anything to it. And I said, and then I told the driver, I said, you're going to take me there. It'll be my first delivery. I was like, oh. So I go ahead and I make the pizza, and for everyone's wondering what he ate. And I've been telling this to everybody. It was a large, thin and crispy, extra pepperoni pizza. So I went ahead, I made the pizza, and in fact, I kind of geeked out a little bit watching. I was making sure that it didn't puff up. It was a good pizza because, of course, it's for Michael. So I had no idea at the time it was for Michael, but I had to. Absolutely. You assume it's for someone up there. And so I went ahead and we made the pizza, went and cooked it, and got in there. And so we went ahead and hopped in with the driver, and we head over to where they were staying.
All right, so he goes on now. And if you remember, in this documentary, people within the Bulls organization, who I think are liars, said that 5 people went to deliver this pizza. I never thought that was true to begin with. Here's what he's had to say about that.
The crap story that the guy said that there were 5 people, there was 2 of us, and I didn't even have that many people working at the time at the store, but there was only 2 of us. You had a police car, if I remember correctly, being parked in there, and you had to identify yourself. We're dressed in all of our uniforms. Both of us are in uniform, and it's clear where we're coming from. Walk in, security guy looks at us, says, great, go ahead, going in. So I go ahead, and obviously the pizza has basically never left me. It's been around me the whole time. And so we get into there, and as soon as you walk into the room or into the building, you could start to smell the cigar smoke. And we get in onto the elevator and go up to, it was on the 2nd or 3rd floor. I think it was the 2nd floor. Anyway, we get up there, and boy, as soon as that door opened, I mean, it felt like, got punched in the face with cigar smoke.
Well, that doesn't surprise me any, because that's all Jordan did was drink wine and smoke. But he goes on now, and he goes on, and he talks a little bit about, and he's asked, did anyone else complain about getting sick? Here's his response to that.
I got called by the district manager saying, okay, if one guy got sick, how many others are we going to have to deal with? And there were no other reports. Nobody else got sick. In fact, later on, a few years later, I had talked to a few people that had gotten pizza that night too, and who knows how much truth's in it, but they're like, no, it was fine. Plus, it's a thin, crisp pepperoni pizza. It's tough to get food poisoning off of pizza unless, of course, obviously you add something to it, but that didn't happen because it sure as heck didn't leave my hands.
All right, so here's my thoughts on that, and I know this might seem like a shocker to many. Michael Jordan is a liar. He's a liar. The Bulls organization are covering up all the crap that he did. Just like when he went to Atlantic City during the playoffs, when he played the Knicks. They are covering up for the king, Michael Jordan. This didn't happen. Now, is it possible that they actually, he probably did eat a pizza. But, again, the people that I've spoken to that are very close to this situation say that he flew out on a private jet to meet up with his mistress and partied all night.
Where at, though? Where did he go?
I don't know. I don't have that information.
It would be awesome if he went to, Maine.
No. The 2 rumors that I've heard, again, they're just rumors.
Right.
But one is St. George, Utah.
Okay,
and the other one is here in Las Vegas. All a pretty short flight from Salt Lake.
All right.
The fact that he was that sick from a pepperoni pizza is a bunch of baloney. It's a bunch of crap. That's what it is. And the fact that this Salt Lake City radio show, what a get. The fact that they were able to find this pizza delivery driver, I think, is awesome.
So, anyway, you know what he was? He was actually the assistant manager. And this was like a 9 or 10 minute
So
interview.
he was like AJ in The Sopranos.
Yeah, he was. He's assistant manager, and he said, if you heard in that first cut, he said to his staff, he goes, "I don't want any of you fools tampering with this pizza, so I'm going to make it. I'm the manager. I'm the assistant manager. I'm going to make the pizza. Not only am I going to make this thing with my bare hands, I'm going to be the one to deliver it," because basically he didn't trust his riffraff employees.
Right.
I mean, the idea
he was like E in Entourage before.
The idea that you might think that this assistant manager was making this pizza and he wiped his ass with the dough is just completely ridiculous. The idea that, just in general terms, that they intentionally tried to food poison Jordan. Give me a break, guys. Michael Jordan's a liar. The guy was a partier. He was a compulsive gambler. He loved his wine and his cigars. Is he the best player of all time? Absolutely. But with that being said,
his wine, his cigars, and also his house.
And by the way, here's another example of how we know Michael Jordan is a liar. How do we know Michael Jordan's a liar? Because I remember he owed that pimp $60,000 on the golf course. It was some pimp that was involved with some really weird, shady dealings. Hold on.
You mean like pimping?
But Michael,
I've heard it's not exactly easy.
But Michael Jordan paid this guy like a $57,000 check. And Jordan claimed, oh, no, it was just for some favors or for this or that. Jordan lied. And then when he was questioned about it in the courtroom, because this guy actually was convicted of some serious crimes, Jordan had to be honest. And when he was honest, he said that was a gambling debt. And then when he was asked, Michael, why did you lie about it? This is a court document, by the way, when he was under oath. He said, because I was embarrassed because it was a gambling debt. Jordan lies. And you know what I think it is? Jordan is embarrassed. Here's what I think happened.
I think that he may have purchased women from this pimp.
Jordan was embarrassed. That's possible. Jordan was embarrassed at his behavior. I think it embarrasses him then, and it embarrasses him now. I believe that he hung out with a bunch of mistresses. He took a lot of private jets everywhere. And just like he lied about the gambling debts, he's lying about his mistresses and the sex he had. So to me, that's exactly what took place here.
So more to the, back to Craig Fite, the assistant. By the way, it was a Pizza Hut. That was like the only place that was open. And so Craig Fite said a couple interesting things. He said, first of all, why on earth would I tamper with the pizza? I was a huge Michael Jordan fan. He even named his kid after Michael Jordan, he said. And when he got up to the room, this was not in the audio, but he said, I knocked on the door and I gave him the pizza and I said, hey, I'm a big Jordan fan. Can I say hello to him? And they cracked the door open and he waved at Jordan and said, hey, Michael, how you doing? So he was a huge fan. So why would he want to poison his idol? Why would he want to poison a guy that he liked? And the other thing is he said that Jordan was in there smoking like a chimney, smoking his cigars, drinking wine, playing cards. He also said where they were staying, it gets very cold at night and all the windows were open. And he thinks that maybe Jordan just got a cold. Maybe, he was sitting there and got sick that way. But this is also at 10 o'clock at night, 10:30, so it also lends credibility to the theory that he got on that private jet after the pizza and partied into the wee hours of the morning.
That's exactly what I think happened.
Again, he was such a good basketball player. Not even good, great basketball player. And he was just such a better athlete than everybody else in the NBA that he could do those type of things and get away with it, Brian.
Well, he did get away with it.
He did. The guy won 6 rings.
Yeah, but, you could tell me he won 100 rings.
In 37 of the playoff series that he played in, he led the series in scoring in 36 of them.
Okay, but here's where we disagree. You can tell me he had 1,000 rings, and it wouldn't change my opinion, and this is what it is. The night before a playoff game, if you're the guy that pushes your teammates to be better and claim that you're the hardest worker out there and that you don't take the game more serious than anybody else, we're not talking about a regular season basketball game. You're supposed to set the example. It's the night before Game 2 playoffs versus the New York Knicks, and you just lost Game 1. It is completely inappropriate to drive 2.5 hours with your dad to Atlantic City and see gambling into the wee hours of the morning. That is completely inappropriate, and it's not the lead. Was Michael Jordan not a great leader? Of course he was a great leader, but the point I'm trying to make is
he wasn't a great example.
It sets a horrible precedence and example to your teammates.
I'll agree with that.
When you preach it every day in practice, and then you don't do it yourself. Now, in the documentary, Michael Jordan said, I never, did any. I always did what I preached to my teammates. Really? Would you have had a problem, Michael, if your teammates the night before a playoff game gambled until 2 a.m.? I'm pretty sure Jordan would have had a problem with that. If you're going to preach that stuff, you got to do it yourself.
Do you know why that is? Because he knows that they weren't good enough to be able to do it and still perform at a high level.
But that's
Michael Jordan was so goddamn good that he could that he could do those things. I could say that.
Don't take the Lord's name in vain.
that he could do those things and still outperform everyone else. because he was that phenomenal of a basketball player and that phenomenal of an athlete, Brian. But you're right. His teammates,
it's not about that.
Rodman could have done it probably, but no one else could.
My opinion, well, what Rodman did was wrong too in the documentary when Rodman decided to do his WWF wrestling.
That was funny, though.
Yeah, I mean, but he shouldn't have done it. It was wrong. I mean, to me, this has nothing to do with how good of an athlete you were, how good of a basketball player you. It has to do with, are you an honest person? You know, you got to do what you preach, right? And Jordan didn't do that. And I think this pizza situation, he doesn't have the credibility. I'm sorry, he doesn't. I'm not buying the fact that he left the game for a year because he wanted to be a baseball player. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying the fact that it was just a random murder with his dad. I'm not buying any of that stuff, and I'm not buying the fact that he never bet on basketball games because, of course, he did.
And I am buying that because I want to think good about arguably the best basketball player and the most competitive person in professional sports of all time.
Well, you could think that all you want to, but I think the evidence,
that's fine.
The evidence speaks for itself. You could also think that Donald Trump has never cheated on any of his wives, too.
No, not even close. Obviously, Donald Trump has cheated on his wives.
I'm just saying.
Now, has he done it since he's been in office? No, but Stephen Horsford has.
You can think that. You can think anything you want about a politician.
So did Mark Sanford.
You can think that all you want about.
So did Bill Clinton.
You could think that all you want about a politician or an athlete, but it doesn't change the facts. Facts are that Donald Trump has cheated on multiple ex-wives, and the fact is that Michael Jordan had a gambling problem. And Michael Jordan's gambling problem, he has a drinking problem. There's no question he had a lot of problems.
But those problems did not affect his on-the-court performance because, again, he was just that much better than everyone else.
There's a few games where it absolutely did affect his performance, particularly in Game 2.
How many games did he play in his career?
Again, you said it didn't affect him at all. And if you take thousands of games, I'm specifically talking about one game, which was a playoff game against the New York Knicks in Game 2, and it absolutely affected his performance. As a whole, did it? Of course not. But there are some specific, and by the way, that's why Michael Jordan wouldn't talk to the media for the next 6 months after that, because he didn't want to be held accountable, because he was embarrassed, and he didn't want to answer to questions about his gambling spree in Atlantic City the night before a playoff game. It is why he was very sensitive about that, and it's why till today he doesn't like talking about it. There are things today he doesn't like talking about.
Let's say that MJ didn't have a gambling problem. Let's say he didn't have a problem with going on private jets and hanging out with one of his many mistresses, because he was, king sugar daddy as well as the best basketball player of all time. Let's say none of that existed. Would he have won 10 rings?
To me, this has nothing to do with that.
How would his career been any different?
To me, this has nothing to do with rings. How would his career have been different? Well, for starters, I don't think he would have been.
You don't think his dad would have died?
For starters, I don't think he would have been harassed by the media as much as he was because of his gambling. I know that that's part of the reason why he won't do any interviews with people unless it's under his own conditions because of that, because he doesn't trust the media. He doesn't have a trust for the media because of his own doing. And you can make the case, they're just trying to take him down. Well, you know what? He did a lot of this stuff to himself. He didn't address the issue. All he had to do was get up there and say, you know what? I shouldn't have gone to Atlantic City. I made a mistake. Luckily, we still won the series, but he never did that.
He is the prime example of how valuable legitimate raw talent is, because he had more of that than anyone else.
Well, yeah, but this isn't, again, my opinions have nothing to do with raw talent or rings. It has everything to do with the fact that he's a liar. The man lies.
And he's worth $2.1 billion.
Well, again, his money has nothing to do with it.
He owns a basketball team. He's getting paid $90 million a year, despite that, for a shoe that comes out every single year, despite the fact that he hasn't played in almost 20 years.
But what you're talking about has nothing to do with my opinion. Again, the man lies. He's lying about this pizza situation. Members of the Bulls organization are lying about it to cover it up. They are liars, and Jordan has lied before. And I'm sure Jordan will lie again. And I don't appreciate anyone that does a documentary when the lead character in the documentary says, I'm going to have the final say in it, otherwise you're not doing it. I just think that's ridiculous.
Hey, Brian, you
don't get the truth.
How well do you think that a documentary about someone like Michael Avenatti would do?
Well, it's all dependent on if it's done the right way. Certainly his story is very unique, but you can't have one perspective.
But
you have to have both sides.
It can't be a puff piece, right?
No, it has to be done. It has to be done on both sides. It has to be done honestly, and it has to be done from both sides of the equation. People that don't like Michael Avenatti, people that have worked with him, and then those who are friends and family of Michael Avenatti. You have to get that. See, to me, that's what a documentary is. A documentary should be about getting down to the truth. You want the truth of a story. Hear from both sides. And if you don't know if you got the truth or not, let the viewers make that decision. All right.